Welcome to Crimson Guitars, welcome to my life, welcome to a hopefully live stream. Let's see if this is actually working this time or not. I think I might be live. Am I live? I can see... I don't know. Can you see me? You can see me. Wow, do you know what that meant? That meant all I needed to do was turn everything off 3 times, restart, and go for it. Okay, are we on? Sweet T Guitar says, okay Ben, take a fretting hammer and tap the hard drive increasingly harder until it reacts, and if that doesn't work, use a bigger hammer. Percussive maintenance, I like it. I think... Well, this is a new technical difficulty. I have not experienced this one so far. I think what happened was I set the stream up over there, and instead of shutting the computer down, I moved to the studio and changed to a different internet link thingy, and wow, we're professional, are we not? Let's face it, Friday evening, nearly 7 o'clock on a Friday evening, we're not expecting professionality, are we really? We are here for the fun. Okay, welcome everybody. We have got a bunch of people. Kamikaze, I've never seen you before. Or at least that is a name that I am not familiar with. The Real Wonky Dog, Rab Knox Rab. I am so glad that we got to the bottom of your issues with not hearing back from us at Crimson. Turns out that the spam folder of doom had been eating a lot of emails from us to you. But I'm very, very much looking forward to seeing you at Crimson soon. So that's going to be freaking awesome. Robert R. is in as well. He says, I'm just glad it's Ben and not me putting on these live streams. I would be a nervous wreck. I am too. I've got cows just outside of here. The second I started talking, they've all come over to the window to say hi. Hi, cows. And it is fun. How have your weeks been? Has it been worthwhile? Are we all doing all right? How is life post GGBO? I personally, I'm struggling with everything that I want to do. I really want to do a billion things, and they all take time. Okay. Sweet T Guitars, this is while I was, before I had started. It says, okay, Ben, you've got exactly 4 hours to get going, or I swear I'm leaving. Best comment of the night, thank you very much. Okay, now, let us see. Sven Clark has sent a question via Discord. He says, I doubt you have been in this predicament in quite some time, but I'm at a bit of a standstill. Hardware is the next step to continue, and without it I'm afraid I'll miss some critical measurements. I won't be able to afford and order it until after vacation. Would getting a start on the next guitar be a good use of my time, or does it offer up too much of a distraction from completing the current project that is so close to the finish line? In the What's on the Bench that I filmed today, which will be going live next week, I was talking to Dan, who now works for me in the school at Crimson Guitars. He, in no small part, was hired because of the fantastic Death's Head Hawkmoth inlay that he did on his final instrument. The work ethic, the way he did it, how he overcame various problems in the rest of the build, etc., just blew me away, and I thought, I've got to hire this guy. And that was way more than a year ago. He has not yet finished that build. He's done another 2 or 3, or is working on another couple of his own builds in the meantime, and those builds have distracted him, and he's fell out of love with the first one because of the issues that came up with it. I think that in your case, though, and in most people's cases, that shouldn't really be too much of an issue. I have Nebula here, and GGBO, I had to finish Shred. And while I was finishing Shred, Nebula went off to be finished in the spray booth, etc. And I had to do my GGBO entry. And that whole I don't like using the word stress, but the stress of all of that jazz put me off building anything for a little while. I'm now back in. I did a repair yesterday, which is going to go live in tomorrow's video. It's just a basic repair, setup, fret leveling thing on a really cool little banjolele belonging to my neighbour. And it wasn't the build that was the process. It wasn't the particular guitar that I fell out of love with. It was I needed a break from building. And I'm back and I'm starting Nebula again, probably over the weekend, to be honest. So I would say, first of all, you should be fine. And starting the next build is absolutely fine and a valid use of your time. However, I would also say that you don't necessarily need to have the hardware in place right away. In all seriousness, you should be able to use the measurements that you get. A standard tunematic is going to be 14 millimeters high, therefore you want the top of the saddle to be at about 17 millimeters high, so you've got some wiggle room, and build it based on that. If that worries you, then wait for some hardware, and start the next build. The most important thing is to keep on keeping on. We only become great guitar builders by doing it a lot. And if there's a reason to stop, then do something else that is still applicable and practice, etc. Even if it's just saying, hey, do you know, for the next month I'm going to spend a considerable amount of time perfecting my sharpening techniques, for example. Or I'm just going to plane down a lot of lumber so I can get used to how handplanes should feel. I remember early on really fighting with my handplanes and hating them. Hating handplanes because I hadn't got them set up properly. Jaybird Customs is in the house, as is Creverai, and as are Creverai and SC Guitars. Christopher Hall says hello from smoking hot Northern California. Is that still going on? Northern California and Canada and all of that. Yeah. You guys are cooking, it sounds like. KH, again on our Discord, links in the descriptions, etc., says, after your experience with Nebula 2.0, in your honest opinion, the acoustic sound difference between this build and your original plan of making a solid body hollow version. Adding to that, from Bartissimo, Ben, when do we get to watch the end of the Nebula 2 build? That is all... Okay, I don't know what she sounds like yet because I haven't finished. Literally, she spent 6 or 8 weeks in the finishing department and looks absolutely stunning, as is only right and just. And that's where we're at, and I'm going to start back up again, and you'll get a video of Nebula 2.0 in your inboxes on Saturday next week. Okay, very carefully put it back. I have a super chat. If you want to guarantee that I will see your question, please send through a super chat. Every little bit helps, but it also means that I absolutely will see it and will answer. This is from Uriel Sage. Thank you very much. He says, Uriel, is that a boy or a girl's name? Or both? I'm assuming male. Speaking of Nebula, can you explain how you tapered the laminates when you were making the neck? I love that look and I want to try it. Thanks. Okay, that's actually a lot more fiddly than it sounds. It is a look I love. I personally think that a multi-laminate neck where all of the laminates are, where the central laminate at least is parallel to the center line, it looks weird because the external ones, because of the shape of the neck, it just doesn't look right. So I, at the very least, plane down the central section to a certain degree in some way, shape or form. Generally what I will do is run it through on the bandsaw, get the rough shape I'm looking for, and it doesn't have to be perfect. It does not have to be anything in particular, just an angle. Although if you want to, you can match the taper. That's the word I've been stumbling over. The taper of your fretboard, from the nut to the 24th, etc. If you match that taper or make a slightly tighter taper, then it would look better. Now, with Nebula, I had to do that on multiple pieces, and I ended up planing them down. It was a few videos back, but I ended up planing them down next to each other and then testing and looking and then going back and hand planing a little bit more. There are easier ways to do it, one of which is to make a single one that is the correct taper, and then masking tape and super glue trick the wood you actually want to do on that in rectangular form, and then put it through a thicknesser, and you'll get a consistent taper every single time. The one other trick that I would say is everything's nice and slippery at that point, and you also want to make absolutely certain, and this is the tricky bit, that each piece is the same width at the same point. So if it slips and you've got two tapered pieces on either side of a central piece, and one piece is there and one piece is there, it's gonna look weird. So I used a dowel, I think probably even a metal dowel, at either end through all of the tapers before I put any pressure on it. There we go. Okie dokie. So, please click like. There's 180 of you. 4 people just left, and only 58 people clicked like. Well, well, well. Okay. Ben, challenge, glueless guitar. This is from Climber Custom Guitars. You do it first. I have always, since I became aware of Japanese joinery, I have wanted to try a guitar made using only that. And actually, it is entirely possible. A glueless guitar. I would say it would be interesting to make a glueless / boltless guitar. The easiest way would be to do, I suppose what Chicks did, and make it out of a single solid piece of wood, which was, fantastic build. But yeah, Japanese joinery would be pretty awesome. Okie dokie. Chain Melted Snake, this is again via Discord. It says, Crimson Headquarters is hypothetically on fire. All staff are safe. Even Josh, who refused to shout for help. You have time and 2 hands to dash in and salvage 2 guitars. Which 2 would you go for, and which third guitar would you quietly like to throw in the flames? For sure, you could technically rebuild any and all of them, but maybe some have greater sentimental value. Bob is at Crimson Headquarters right now. I would grab Bob, and I would grab Bob because that guitar was the closest I've come to utterly failing at a build. From a structural point of view, like so close. And the 90-hour build, just because of the sheer amount of time that went into that guitar, and it wasn't just 90 hours. Technically, I think I could do better and faster. What guitar would I secretly throw in the flames? I did a build that I was incredibly excited about when Matt Cremona and April Wilkerson were visiting us. And it's called the Silky Oak build. And it's a beautiful instrument. The wood is amazing, and I made it as big as humanly possible so that I could maximize the use of the beautiful, beautiful, beautiful wood. And I've been saving that wood for years. And then right at the end, because I was in a rush, I messed up on the backplate, and I'm not happy with how that worked. And it's just an incredibly heavy guitar, and I don't love it. And that's really sad to me. I have a super chat from Fiakmar or Flakmar, I never know, I think that's a lowercase I. Oh yes, PRS update. This was the PRS where the PRS acoustic where the truss rod bolt, the section that the Allen key fits into to then turn the truss rod, snapped off on a dual action truss rod. He says the weld worked but broke during adjustment. Time to learn slide. Thanks for the help though. Pretty wall decoration to be sure. Okay. Okay, if the weld worked initially, essentially you want to braze. You want to braze it, and if at all possible, please excuse me, I've got a frog in my throat. If at all possible, pretend that this is the nut. You want to drill a hole so that it goes over the truss rod a little bit. You might have to finagle things a little bit, and if you have the ability to drill a pin through before you weld anything, then that pin going all the way through and welded, I say weld, use flux and yes, use flux, brazing torch, silver solder, that sort of stuff. It's the sort of thing that a jeweler should be able to help you with, rather than a car mechanic, somebody who welds vehicles. Okay, Joe Smijohn Jr., welcome to the chat. Has sent a $5 super chat. Thank you very much, Joe. I really appreciate your support. Glueless and Bottles Neck. I'm going to assume that is a typo. Glueless and boltless, of course. That's easy. Just make a dovetail joint where the neck and body meet. Yes, but you would have to have a key going through it as well to stop the dovetail sliding out, which is where the Japanese joinery comes in. I do think that it would be a very, very interesting self-limitation on a build. At one point, I built a workbench that was done that way, and it worked for a little while. Okay. Uriel Sage has been sitting in his workshop. He's been cleaning for 3 hours. That's what I had to spend the first half of my day doing at the vintage tool shop. I don't spend very much time there at all, but every now and then I am required. David Fondell, welcome to the stream. Give me questions, guys. Give me questions. SE Guitar says the computer hadn't had enough coffee yet. I have not had enough coffee. I only had 3 mugs of coffee today. I walked into Crimson to film the What's on the Bench, and Ricky had seen me walk in, or seen me drive on the security cameras, and he handed me a coffee, and I went, "Thank you. Mask, drink, done." Oh, just... yeah. Excuse me. Sorry, did I get too excited there? Feed me questions or I will not be able to keep on going. Crumpet says Windows updates ruin everything. I've got updates paused, and that is now the thing. So, and that was from Creeverai telling me to do that, I think, actually. I just do not. Okay, so... let's have a look. Okay, Spike the Frugal Fixer says, was informed by DHL my second fret kit was lost. That is not what happened. You were informed that they were on the way to your house and you weren't there and they tried to deliver it to you. I don't understand what you're complaining about. And on top of that, it's a free kit and the second one we've sent out to you now. DHL missed a delivery and it's entirely DHL's fault. The first one, unfortunately, is lost in your customs on the way, and is probably going to pitch up at your door one day soon, which would be, well, annoying for all involved, really. Anyway, I have a question here from Joe Smijohn Jr. again. Welcome, welcome, welcome. For the second time, welcome. He says, I'm planning on building a custom case for my Purple Heart build. Which wood would you recommend? to make the case out of with more purple heart, or just use red heart? Okay. I've got two things in mind. Are you talking about a sort of a wall-mounted display case with a nice glass front or something like that? That could be really, really cool. In which case, yes, I would use timber, and I would use. I don't know. Honestly, that's entirely up to you. Now, if you're talking about building a hard case to carry the guitar around in, I would predominantly use plywood. I would use eighth inch ply or something like that. However, I have seriously considered doing this using inch thick. What do you call it in America? 4/4 lumber on the external outside sections of the case. Anything other than that, the large flat outside sections of the build of the case, at least if made out of solid timber, just would not be strong enough. It wouldn't protect the guitar enough. You have to use plywood, and you can veneer that. In fact, you can buy veneered ply, but yeah, be aware. Now, oh no, Real KH sent a super chat and said boltless means no bolts for tuners. Pickups? The jack? Okay, so the jack, yeah, I could do that, no problem. Yeah, I have threaded wood before. Use a tap and die, and then just thread the jack in. Strengthen it using super glue before you thread it in, if you need to. The pickups could be built in from the back, so they poke up through, and then you have wedges that lock them in place against the side walls. I suspect that would work. You'd have to do it from the on the short side so that you're not crushing the pickup too much. Tuners, that's more problematic. I would probably fashion my own nails out of excess pieces of fretboard. Or even just make friction tuners out of ebony. So we don't have traditional guitar tuners with the gears and all that jazz, because, hey, those gears have bolts in them. So friction tuners, there we go. I've solved all the problems with that one. Robert R. says, technology is a love-hate relationship. I love to hate it. Robert Tucker says, Ben, you're blue. Am I? Hold on. There we go. Is that better? Sean Durkin says, I have intonation issues. I measure scale length hundreds of times before bridge install, but I always seem to end up too sharp at the 12th for saddles to adjust. What would cause this? String gauge? String gauge, yeah. And if it happens a lot, basically you need to allow yourself 2 or 3 millimeters in most bridges anyway. And when you have the bridge, when you're measuring all of that, tighten the saddles, pull them further back so that you know that you've got on the bridge itself enough room to play. This is something that has caught me out personally dozens of times, and it's never good. Fiakmar says, question, what would your opinion be of someone with no experience attempting to change career and train as a luthier in their mid-40s post-pandemic? Is there a demand? UK, Ireland? This is a difficult business to get in. It really is. Now, to make guitars as a living and make a living making guitars from scratch is not easy. Now, the beauty of the world we now live in is that the internet is amazing, and you can either with a lot of money or a lot of luck build up a following of people, and mine was the luck, by the way, um, mainly by the fact that I started doing it a long time ago. You can build up a following and sell as many guitars as you can make, but that's the problem. Making guitars by hand, at least, in sufficient quantities to make up even a basic wage, is quite difficult. Where most guitar builders get around this is that repairs are always required, and a good repair person is worth their weight in gold, period. And so most guitar builders will subsidize their building by doing, a couple of days a week repairs, and that is the bread and butter. And then the guitar building is the passion. And if you are lucky, you never have to do repairs if you don't enjoy them. I never have particularly enjoyed repairs. I'm actually changing my tune now, which is really interesting. But I would suggest that, yes, with the internet, with the ability to sell on the internet, with the marketing possibilities, and with the correct eye for detail and drive, there is no reason why you cannot make a huge success, whether you're starting in your 20s or your 50s. The trick is, and I don't particularly want to try and shove a Crimson Guitars course down your throat, but the trick is spending as much time as humanly possible learning and honing and perfecting, and learning and honing and perfecting, whether that is by watching YouTube videos or going on a course in person, or trying to find an apprenticeship somewhere. With zero experience, that's very, very unlikely. It's go for it. I don't quit your job straight away. I would say build guitars in your spare time for 6 months or a year, and do it as much as humanly possible. Go from there. David Farndale has sent a £5 super chat, but no question. If you have a question, David, please send an at Crevery or at SC Guitars, and let them know what the question was, and they will get in touch with me, and we'll go from there. But yeah, Fiakma, I would say definitely give it a go. Patrick Nesbo says, question, would it be cool or possible to build a natural finished guitar case matching the guitar? So, for example, a Zero-Cote case for a Zero-Cote guitar, only if you use veneer. And it would be, if you use Zero-Cote to, solid Zero-Cote to build an entire guitar case, I know a lot of guitar builders that would hunt you down for crimes against wood. Joe Smart John Jr. said, no, a normal carry case. So yeah, I would, same question. I would use accents of the solid wood. I would use accents and offcuts of Zero-Cote or Purple Heart or Paduk or whatever we're talking about. Be very aware of the short grain. You would have to use box joints or dovetails or something like that to make sure it's strong enough so you don't have short grain where it would shatter. Composite woods, plywoods, are there for a reason. They are lightweight and they are very, 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 very strong. So yeah, it's a difficult one. Joe Smart John Jr. said, sorry Ben, his first super chat was $2. Said, good afternoon Ben, sorry I'm late, I just got parked. You're mobile every single week. I really do appreciate your support. Turtleface07 says, what is the best way to do a fancy photorealistic inlay? I.e., if I want to inlay a picture of my dog or something. There are 3 or 4 best ways. Photorealistic inlay is basically, I think the only way to do a photorealistic inlay is to literally do that. Take a photo, laminate it to the back of a piece of perspex or glass, I suppose, and then inlay that into the fretboard. Those Ibanez's that had the sort of neon shark fin inlays, that was a piece of neon paper glued onto a bit of perspex. That's how they made those, and it's definitely possible. The other, not quite so photorealistic, is what I did, for example, with the Grace Kelly's eyes, and that was for example, the face. I found a piece of sycamore that had some spalting where the shadow was around her nose and all that, and it wasn't quite right, so I took some spalting from another part of that and inlaid that into the wood to make it look, natural and the correct shadow. And I used various different lumps of material to try and get something fairly close. That took a long time and it was very difficult. Another option is, it seems everybody and their grandmother has got a CNC machine these days, and you can do some pretty amazing work. We have a fantastic employee called Chris at Crimson, who's currently playing around with. He was commissioned to do exactly this: the face of a dog. I'm assuming it's a dog that belongs to the person who's commissioning the guitar, and he has had to draw the face of that dog in a slightly pixelated version of it and build it. And it's the test looks amazing. I can't wait to see what the final one looks like. We'll try and show it on a What's on the Bench soon, and I've asked him to do various things like that, but images of Jimi Hendrix and things like that. Joe Smite John Jr. has come in with another $5 super chat and said, I drive a truck for a living. I'm mobile every day. Lol. I suppose if I didn't do this, I actually think that would be pretty much my ideal job. You don't have to be around people. There's a reason why I have a workshop. And I'm talking to you on a camera, but there's very, very rarely people here. And I like it. And you get to listen to podcasts or audiobooks or music all the time without, you've got 8 hours to get to where you're getting to, and how you fill that 8 hours, in your brain at least, is something else entirely. There's a $20 super chat from Raymond Forbes. Thank you very, very much, Raymond. He says, no question, just really appreciate you doing this. Smiley emoji. Look, seriously, thank you very much. I really appreciate you doing that. When this goes well, I love it too. When it's not quite so technically like the start today, less fun, but we'll get there. Sean Durkin. Oh no, I've answered that one already. So many questions. Joe Smite John Jr. says 11 hours, not 8. Wow. Alan Walker says driving truck is very tiring. Do you know what? That, I suppose, this is again somebody who really doesn't do that very often, but driving anything for a long period of time, because I read somewhere, your mind is constantly having to be on alert, but the more tiring thing is that you're constantly moving, and your body is having to make micro adjustments as everything wobbles and moves and changes and all of that jazz. And at the end of it, it's like you've actually had a workout, which I found quite interesting. Let me know if that sounds right, actually. Okay. With regards to the inlay, if you do want to do it yourself, then I would do that. I would somewhat pixelate the drawing into as many different colors as you can, but relatively large chunks, and just have at it. If you want it done and you don't particularly want to do it yourself, give us a shout and we can do that. Crumpet says, hello. Is there a small list of items or products you can think of that people always forget that they need for a build? Lots of water. Drink lots of water. Okay. It's silly things like a sharp pencil. For years, I just used a scalpel blade and had a random, HB pencil or a 2H pencil. Uh, the I carry a pencil with me all the time. So the Pentel Graph Gear. I'm not. I should see if they will sponsor me. I love this thing, and just the sheer amount of time that I save by having that with me all the time over the year is probably in the order of hours. Even turning around and opening a drawer and finding a normal pencil and then having to sharpen it, that's 2 or 3 minutes of my life gone. I'm not, I don't want to waste that time. I don't know. That's it. A really good sharp pencil is something that most people don't even think about until they really need one. And there are things that you mark out with a guitar that you really, really need. And the same thing goes for sharp tools. You don't, until you get to it, really think that a sharp chisel versus an okay sharp kind of sharp chisel, it makes a big difference to not only your own safety but to the build itself. Yeah. Screwdrivers as well. A good set of different sized screwdrivers. There are various different brands, makes, shapes of slots, essentially. Posi 2, Posi 1, Posi 3, standard crosshatch, etc. And using the wrong star bit in a screw can just mess it all up. So yeah, screwdrivers and pencils and sharp tools. Bill Coleman said $5 and said, "Yay! Received my tool order on Wednesday. 3 weeks in customs." This is the same issue. Unfortunately, it's not everyone, but we have got people who we ship the order in 24 hours, 48 hours normally. There was an issue with rocking neck rests recently, but other than that, we ship really quickly. And then it gets to wherever it's going and it gets stuck in customs hell, and still due to COVID, everybody's short-staffed and there are issues. And, we get blamed for issues with your country's customs or with the shipping agents, also short-staffed. And it's really bloody annoying for everybody involved. 3 weeks in customs. I'm sorry that you had to wait for that, Bill. He says quality is effing awesome. Cheers. One problem, I'm now nervous to use them because they're so nice. Thank you. No, seriously, scratch them up. I nearly said drop them. Don't drop the precision ground straight edges. They should be okay, but don't do it. It's one of those things. It's when you get a new car or a watch or even something that's new to you, until you've put that first scratch on it, it's scary. Anyway, thank you for your support, and use them well. They will last you a lifetime. Robert R. says, "Ben, when are you going to replace the last 3 missing chisel slots on the wall behind you, and with which chisels?" I actually have a box. I have a box, and I've been told that it is a care package from Matthew over at Workshop Heaven, who saw that I donated my chisels. And I think that there's a set of chisels in there. I don't know what they are, but I am going to probably actually this weekend open my own collection of tools from Crimson Guitars and Workshop Heaven to replace the ones that I auctioned off on behalf of Great Guitar Build Off. It raised, I think, after fees, it raised £1,200 or thereabouts for my old tools, and that absolutely blew me away. So yeah, it's incredible. And yeah, on top of that, yeah, on top of that, GGBO. Well, just the whole thing's amazing. I've now moved on to the next question in my mind. Ben Timon says, "Is it still worth uploading pictures to the GGBO website even though the deadline is over?" Yes, please, please, please. So temporarily, we removed the profiles of people who couldn't be voted on because they hadn't quite made it. We are reinstating those profiles, and I want to see the finished guitars. Part of the competition is there. A large part of the competition is to promote what you're doing and to promote guitar building. I don't actually give a rat's ass whether a build was finished or not. I care about saying, hey, look at these amazing things that these people have made, and sharing your Instagrams and your YouTube channels and all that. Thousands. We had, I think it was 150 or 160,000 people went to the website over 4 days to vote. Incredible. And people are visiting all the time to look at guitars and builds, so please send us your photos. Okay, Fast Wipe, great name, sent $5 says, "Do you make neck templates for different bridge types, or are the differences in bridge string spacings not enough to justify multiple templates?" The latter. There are, in general, two widths of neck. You've got your standard 55, 56 millimeter neck width, which is pretty much every guitar ever made, and that doesn't change. The scale length, the nut width, all that jazz. That doesn't really change that. And then you've got what Parker did, which was to make it the same nut width, but I think about 59 millimeters. Correct me if I'm wrong. At the 22nd, 24th fret, and that just gives you a wider neck to play with. He didn't change the spacing at the bridge. It still had a standard spacing. So I personally love the feel of it. So to answer your question, no, not really. Joe Smyde John Jr. sent $5 again. Thank you. And said, "Have you tried Wood River chisels and hand planes?" I have not. No, they are US only, as near as I can tell, although there's every chance that the manufacturer they use sends stuff over this way under a different brand, or maybe they sell things under a different brand name over here. And I haven't, even though I've got the Vintage Tool Shop, I have not, to my knowledge, ever had any come through. So yeah, I would be interested. I'm always interested to play around with new tools, to be honest. Ravencroft Guitars has sent another super chat, $7 Thank you very much, and said, "Will we be able to see how many votes we got in the GGBO? I know I'm nowhere near the top 10, but I'd be interested to see how many I finished with." That should be on the website. That should be live on the website now. Essentially, it's... Oh. This is the problem with me not micromanaging every single function of every single person who works for me. It is entirely possible that the counter has been taken down. We have a spreadsheet with all of the data on. So essentially, I think what probably happened, using deduction and logic, is at the end of the voting, they disabled the plugin that was in doing the voting to stop the vote there. We have a spreadsheet with all of the numbers, and if you want to know what your numbers were, please email, I think it is office@greatguitarbuildoff.com, and James will tell you what it is. There were... Actually, this is a good point. I needed to talk to you about this. Ravencroft Guitars sent another $7 super chat and said also, "Hello, Ben. Hope you're well. Thanks for all you do." I'm getting better now. Thank you very much. At 5 p.m. At 5 p.m. as I was walking out of Crimson HQ after filming What's on the Bench and all that jazz, I realised while talking to Ricky that I had a live stream at 6:30, and I'd completely forgotten that it was Friday. That is indicative of what my week has been like. Okay, so we needed to talk about the voting on GGBO and the fact that there was actually... Try not to sneeze. Wow. Okay. there was a way. This is online voting, and unless we take the only way to do it without any possible cheating, for want of a better word, is to force everybody to sign in and download a link, sort of thing, and do it that way. Every other voting app uses your IP address, and it is possible to fool that by logging in from a different device, or I suppose private browsers. I'm not entirely sure about that. Those things that you use when you want to hide Christmas present purchases from your wife, etc. So there was some element of that, and it turned out also that the app that we had used had a flaw that we only found out by mistake afterwards, that it actually was allowing people to vote twice over after 24 hours. And not even everybody, some people. We had 3/4 of the people who tried to replicate this issue in the Crimson headquarters couldn't do it. I did. I ended up voting twice for the Doctor Who guitar. I don't think it made any difference in the end. Well, I know it didn't. It turns out that about half a percent of the votes were duplicates, and it made absolutely zero difference to who actually came out on top of that. Okay, In Theory Apps has sent a $10 super chat. Thank you very much. And said, I've finished my first Scratch acoustic this week. Congratulations. He says, thank you for the inspiration. He or she says, thank you for your inspiration and for sharing your knowledge. Absolute pleasure. What should my focus be for the next couple of builds to get the most learning as a new builder? I mean, that is an incredibly difficult question. From my personal point of view, I spent the longest time not actually knowing how to set up a guitar properly, and it's arguably the most important part of the build. Making a guitar is one thing. Making a guitar play well is a totally different thing. Obviously, you need to start your next build and just keep on iterating and practicing and doing it. And you know, this isn't cutting hand-cut dovetails. You're not going to cut a dovetail a day for the next 10 years and be a master dovetail maker. There are hundreds, or if not thousands, of different processes involved in guitar making, especially acoustic guitar making. And you have to build the whole guitar every time to do it. The setup, though, if you have friends who play guitar. Sorry, I laugh because I mean, you guys are my friends. That's you know, I'm a sad, lonely person. Other than my internet fam, as it were. If you have friends who play, offer to set up their guitars and work with them to figure out how they want it set up. You can ruin a guitar with a bad setup. Everything else can be perfect, but if the action is too low, it'll sound rubbish. If the nut is not right, if the nut slots are too sloppy, it won't sound right. And there's all of these things that I really wish I had practiced and learned and dialed in and got in my head much earlier in my career. So that from a personal point of view, I would say get as many guitars on your bench as possible and do a setup a day or whatever you can do, and get that in your head. With that in, you will make fantastic guitars time after time, no matter if the router slips or you aren't happy with how the truss rod fits, or all of those other things. The end result will be amazing because it will play well. That and finishing. Finishing is something that you can practice and should practice. Hell, I need to practice my finishing. So there we go. Ben Timon says, Weha, love them screwdrivers. They are very, very nice. I absolutely agree. I know I've got a bunch. I missed a few super chats here, which I'm going to assume have been sent to me. David Farndale says, I wanted to ask Ben, are the pots used for a bass guitar different from the pots for a guitar? Thanks. No. In general, no. There are certain... Bass guitars often have active pickups, and if it has active pickups, then yes. But if they're passive, then no, not really. We traditionally use 500k or 250k pots, although I do think that's lazy. I think that there is some experimentation to do there. Okay, Ivan Wizard sent a €5 super chat, says, hello dear fellow, would you ever be inclined to make a double-ended guitar like what Michelangelo Battio plays? That'd be an interesting watch. Smiley face emoji. I'm not sure why. You started hello dear fellow. I had to use that tone of voice. That accent. Yes. I've considered it. It would be an amazing video series. It really would. I particularly like the similar sort of idea, the triangular 3 guitar creation from last year's GGBO and this year's GGBO, which was just great. So Fastwipe, I've answered that about the bridge. Oh, Uriel Sage has sent a $5 super chat. We had a bunch of super chats come through at the same time. So here we go. Tips on carving a comfortable neck profile. Should the fretboard edges be untouched or carved into? If so, how much? By the way, Uriel is an old male Hebrew name. Thanks. I thought it was. This... Okay, seriously, 95% of you are male. Watching me, interested in guitar building, interested in playing guitars, less so, and this really, really pisses me off, but I also feel that I really need to get my pronouns right. I don't want to come across as too woke, as it were, or whatever it happens to me, but it matters to me. So yeah, there we go. Anyway, Uriel, tips on carving a comfy neck profile. Should the fretboard edges be untouched? No, they should be carved into, in my opinion. If so, how much? It's not should they be carved into. It's, in my opinion, they should be rounded over. If you have got a hard edge, then I think I just swallowed a fly. Or a mosquito, that would be funny. If the edge of the fretboard is a delineated hard corner, even if it is at a relatively comfortable angle, you will feel it on your hand. It will distract you as you play. There's a giant fly coming in for some action. And that would really... Yeah. So soften things off. However, the issue is if you carve into the fretboard, what you tend to do is carve in more around the 7th to 12th fret, and it goes out, and it just throws the whole neck off, and I don't want to do that. So very gently round the edge over in much the same way you would round the edge of the fretboard over, just to make it a little bit more comfortable, but don't carve away that section, at least. Okay, Rab Knox. Okay, yes, again, I've answered this. He's talking about, he's asking if he can upload his pics to the website, as he never had an official entry after he lost all the build footage. Yes, as I said earlier, please please send photographs of the build. And I really am sorry that happened to you. Your builds are amazing. Okay, Creeverai has sent a question through from Malcolm the Speed Bump. Says, hey Ben, how would you finish a very cracked, split, figured oak body? I have done exactly that, just using guitar finishing oil, penetrating guitar finishing oil, followed by high build guitar finishing oil, and I just leave the cracks to do their thing. Now, if I didn't fill, I didn't grain fill, I didn't do anything. The one issue is with that sort of substrate, the oil seeps in, and then 5 minutes, 10 minutes later, if it's particularly deep cracks, it sometimes works its way out, and sometimes after you have rubbed it back. So with the guitar finishing oil, you apply it, you wait for it to start going off to feel a little bit tacky, and then you rub all of the excess away, and it's fine. You hang on a wall, you leave it for 4 hours, and you come back and do more. 6 hours, overnight, depending on temperature, etc. But sometimes it'll seep out of cracks when you've got a guitar, when you've got wood like that. So just be aware that you have to keep an eye on it for an hour or two afterwards. Otherwise, you will have little micro dots of finish coming up on the top, and that just isn't what we want to do, because you then have to rub it down, etc. Another option entirely is to use cactus juice or something like that to stabilize the wood, and resin to fill all of the cracks. Clear resin or resin mixed with dust or mica or something like that. That could be pretty fun. And then you spray over. But I am one for leaving things as natural as humanly possible. I like that. So there we go. Alpha Beta says, piano is so much simpler. Dead Privacy says, I build better motorcycles than guitars. I'll trade you. Guitar for a motorcycle? My wife would kill me. Ravencroft Guitar says, I am a terrible guitar player and only a marginally better guitar builder, lol. I feel the same. Now, I do need questions. Feed me questions. The silence is getting awkward. Okay, Spike has had his delivery delivered, which is great. So he's got his fretboard kit. DHL. Apparently DHL did report it lost, but they've delivered it now. That's fine. Good Day Guitars sent a question via Discord saying, Mr. Ben, thoughts on using a cookie? Tree trunk slice for a body, i.e. you got a tree that's standing up, you slice a cookie out of the whole thing. I have considered this in the past and never done it. In podcast number 134, you talked about it. Would like to hear if your thoughts have changed. P.S. The wood is dry. I suspect I said, never do it, don't be a fool, or something along those lines. Those old podcast things were filmed a long time ago. Yes, my opinion has changed. If it is really dry, then I don't see why you shouldn't be able to do it. The trick with that kind of wood is that it will crack. At some point, you'll have a crack or two. It almost certainly will crack, shall we say. And you will need to use bow ties. Check out April Wilkerson's build that she did at Crimson Guitar. She used bow ties to stabilize the guitar that she was working on. So I think go for it. Just be aware that doing it that way does open you up to stability issues, and also weird shrinkage, i.e. if it's not fully dry, the instrument, the body is likely to shrink in strange ways, and your neck pocket, your pickup cavities, all of that jazz will move and change with it. Cars and guitars. It says, question, can I use old maple flooring for a multi-laminate neck? Taking care of the grain orientation, of course. I mean, with a multi-laminate neck, as long as you don't have short grain, and sometimes even if you do, there is somebody who's been doing one like that, and it's working very well, go for it. In fact, I wish I could do that on every single instrument I do, reusing old wood. I wish. Okay, mhoke63 says, one obstacle I ran into with the GGBO is that my design concept and explanation of what I did and why was in the video, and I think a lot of people just went by the pictures. With 400 odd videos to watch, yes, most people did just end up going by the pictures, and that is... It is something that I've been racking my brains about, trying to figure out how to do it. Essentially, we could have... I think that something that we missed this year was the written description that went next to the pictures was the description that you sent in with your entry 6 or 8 months ago, potentially. Some people entered 2 weeks ago and finished. I think that with the photos, we should have another piece of information sent through to say what you need to say. It's surprisingly difficult running a competition like this. Like, it's taken a hell of a lot of thought, and this year hasn't run as smoothly as I had hoped. Patrick Nesbo, how you doing, Patrick? Question, I have an old ESP GMX48 Explorer with the bolt-on neck. Cool guitars. The low E string is really high, and the low E string has so much space. It's crazy. Is it a nut problem or a neck problem? Almost certainly a neck problem. If you look at the nut, you'll be able to tell if the nut has been cut wrong. But it sounds like the neck pocket, shall we say, is at the wrong angle. I would take the neck out, fill the neck pocket, and then reroute at the correct angle. It is just possible that the neck has a banana shape to it, and that is causing your issue, but that's less likely. I would very much like your input into GGBO. One thing that we are doing is a contestants Builder's Choice Award. And this was something that some of the builders suggested, hey, we've had the voting, but we think that, whatever. And the suggestion came down to me that we have a Builder's Choice Award where the builders and only the people who actually entered the competition all vote amongst themselves for somebody or their top 3. So we're doing that. Patrick Nesbo says, what are the best tools for doing guitar inlays? I will use power abalone, not pieces of mother of pearl. A multi-tool with a router base with 0.6 millimeter router bits that you can get from... I've got lots of mosquitoes. There's a fairly stagnant pond about 100 meters that way, and the windows are open. Not that you needed to know that. PCB routing bits on eBay, you can get them very, very cheap. That's what I use for the most part. Go slowly and carefully. A good router base. Crimson is developing one, but there are alternatives out there. And a good scalpel blade with new sharp scalpels, and because you will always need to go in and mark it with a scalpel blade and then go deeper. Watch my inlay videos. The Grace Kelly Eyes video, it's one of my best videos ever. It goes through the whole process. Check that out. Hold on. Richard Smith says, Ben, any idea for a tailpiece and bridge for a bass drum banjo ukulele with bolt-on acoustic neck? That's hilarious. There's a banjolele repair going live on the channel tomorrow, if Talitha has finished the editing thereof. And essentially, it's just a tailpiece going off the rim of the wood, and you've got essentially a violin style bridge resting on the skin, and that's pretty much the only way that you can do it, to be honest. Now, Rad Spoon says, hi Ben, I'm considering going to an instrument repair / construction program to become a professional luthier. The program offers 3 courses: guitar, violin family, and winds. Can you speak to these? I already have experience building a violin and a viola. Okay, so I ended up, from about the age of 14 or so, I repaired probably half a dozen or so flutes and saxophones and bits and pieces like that. And it's a completely different thing to guitars. It's just completely different thing to guitars, and another completely different thing to violins. My training in the end ended up being building viola da gamba's Baroque instruments in the violin family, and the experience I got with that created who I am today. And it wasn't the attention to detail, it wasn't any of that. It was the use of hand tools. It was the use of stuff that had been used for hundreds of years, and how a person can do that. And that really Eric Lunty, yeah, that's awesome. Eric Lunty's just sent a how's it going super sticker, I think, for $5. It's going very well. That has cheered me up. I wouldn't be me if I hadn't gone to West Dean College and learned how to build early string musical instruments. I spent 2 years there. I wasted a lot of my time chasing girls and being an 18-year-old, and wish I'd spent more time in the workshop and more time learning. I just was in the wrong place. However, when I left there, I had to learn on my own how to build guitars. And I wish that I had gone and studied guitar building. Period. So what I would say is, if the guitar building program lets you use chisels and planes and all that jazz, and if they don't, then they shouldn't be allowed to exist, then do the guitar program if you want to build guitars. It's just if you want to build guitars, do the guitar program. If you want to do woodwind, do the woodwind program. But the violin versus guitar thing, ask them if you can do a mix. I mean, you've already got the experience with the violin, so do the guitars, in my opinion. Joe Smijon Jr. has come in with another $5. He says, I have an idea for your next build. A neck through body, acoustic thin body wings, and then cover the gaps with brass or copper mesh. You had me at mesh. That's funny because that was the last word he said. I think the only thing that I would change about that is through neck. You have to hollow the neck out somehow, because that'd be cooler. I want to build an I-beam neck. That'd be cool. I have a bunch of copper mesh just over there for just that build. Richard Smith. No, I've already answered that one. Eric Lunty was a cool pair. Okay, law-abiding citizen. I think he doth protest too much. Is there a significant benefit beside looks using different woods in multi-laminate necks? By the way, using Bankurai / light red Meranti for a multi-laminate neck with beech and as a fingerboard worked great. I mean, beech is a perfect fingerboard, and I've only ever seen it used as a something to then stain. Really, no, not really. No, if you, for example, Meranti is very lightweight, very resonant, but could be, because of that, not quite as strong as something like Purple Heart, etc. So you would laminate it together with a veneer in between to turn it into a ply, and that would then strengthen everything up. The glue joints strengthen things up. But no, it's all about the look in the end. It really is. Ravencroft Guitars has sent $14 Canadian dollars. Thanks very much. Says for further great guitar build-offs, it would be cool if we had different categories. Oh, best finish, best headstock, best inlay, best design, etc. I still wouldn't win, but it would help me narrow down my votes. Lol. I'm not so sure. If I'm thinking so, your instrument was pretty cool. I was talking to one of the students at Crimson today, and I'd completely forgotten his entire last build because I've imbibed so many guitars over the last couple of weeks. I feel really bad about that. Anyhow, yes, I am. I think that we're going to have broader categories anyway: acoustics, electrics, bass, and then kits. I think. Please, this all needs thought and talking about. But I really do think that okay, spot prizes. That was me talking myself out of doing something precipitous. I do think that spot prizes for best headstock, best inlay, best design, etc. would be great. I am going to be... Yeah. There were spot prizes this year. You know, Triton gave away various tools to various people. We gave Spike a set of leveling tools as a spot prize. And that has happened. Yeah. But I think that a much more structured spot prize system is in order. And I think that's a damn fine idea. So essentially, we will vote on best inlay, and we will say, okay, fine, the spot prize for best inlay will be this inlay set, inlay jig, some chisels, etc., and it's all put together. And at the beginning of the contest, you'll know what that prize is, and that could be what you're competing for. You might not think you're going to win the whole thing, but you can damn well put all your effort into the inlay. For example, that is what we're going to have to do next year, because it is such a good idea. Joe Smart John Jr. has come in with $5 again, spending all of that trucking money. Thank you. And said, well, I said neck through body because you need somewhere to mount the pickups. It's sort of. I would love to do... You're seeing my builds at the moment. I would... Do I? Yes, I have. Neck template. I would love to do an instrument where you've got sort of hollow sections coming out, and that's what the mesh goes on to, and that's what your bridge is attached to, etc. But it could still be an I-beam or a hollowed oval made out of carbon fiber or something really, really strong and light. I want to remove as much material from my guitars as humanly possible. I really do. That's my current shtick, as it were. But yeah, Ravencroft Guitars, that was a fantastic idea. Thank you very much. Franz Truter, welcome. Sent 70 Rand. Bright Joppies. Did I pronounce that right? I haven't read Afrikaans in years. Hi Ben and everyone. Just bought myself a Lefty Stratocaster kit. So excited. Thanks to you and this amazing community, I will keep you posted on Discord. My first Lefty dedicated guitar. Congrats. It's a kit, so probably the inlays are already in the side. That is what I always I have drilled the inlays on the right-hand side of a left-handed neck before and had to start again. And in fact, I think I've done it twice. Not ideal. Yeah, I do wish that I had more people commissioning left-handed instruments, because a left-handed build, there's no difference. Anyhow, okay. Good luck with your build, Franz. Patrick Nesbo, if Ben Crowe got his own production model signature, what would it be and what company would produce it? Obviously Crimson. And it would be either the 12-hour guitar or my GGBO that I've just done. If I was a musician, who would I be? I mean, I'd like to be in Dream Theater. Mr. Waffle says that would take a lot of weave laid in a crisscross pattern. Carbon fiber's directional stability is all about how you lay the weave. That sounds awfully like it's the motion of the ocean, etc. Patrick Nesbo, yes, I would probably have a titanium substrate and use that, and then I don't know what I'm talking about. Patrick Nesbo says, is there a Crimson Explorer kit and how does it compare to the real Explorer? The original? I am not entirely sure if there is an Explorer kit. If there isn't, it is something that we can absolutely make and is already on the list. From just looking at it, you will never know the difference. You just won't. Laying them up next to each other, you'll see that we've had to make some changes in order to, not be sued. But yeah, it's one of those things. Percy Nelson has sent a $5 super chat with no question. Percy, if you have a question, please. Every now and then the super chat gets away from a person with no question. And yeah, if you've got a question, at CreeverEye or at SC Guitars, and they will let me know. SC Guitars just mentioned the word curry. I am now starving. Okay. Turtleface07 sent $5 as a super chat and said, "Hi Ben." Hi Turtleface07. Thank you for doing this. I've been watching for a few years now and you have inspired me to start building guitars. Cheers from California. If I dropped dead now, I have left a net positive on the world just by how much music is being made on instruments made by people inspired by me, and that makes everything that I've ever done worthwhile. And I really appreciate you telling me the fact that, because let's face it, building electric guitars is relatively easy, especially in the day and age of CNC machines and the ability to buy pre-slotted fretboards relatively inexpensively. It's a relatively easy thing to get to do, and I show people that is the case, and then go off the deep end and make my life bloody difficult. Finishing isn't easy, completing the damn things, etc, etc, etc. But yeah, showing people that they can do it is 90% of the battle. The other 10% is saying, hey, I'm going to get some tools, I'm going to go build a guitar. that there Ben Crowe, he can do it. If he can do it, anybody can do it. And yeah, I agree. So thank you very much for letting me know. Dead Privacy says, why do you not tap things like the fancy Luthiers and go, ooh, that's good. I'd be vibrating stuff all day long with all sorts of frequencies and that if I done this for a living. I don't know why I did that. I do when it counts. If I'm making an acoustic guitar, yes, absolutely. Tip, tap, sound, how's it going, and what difference will it make? At the moment, I am making acoustic-ish instruments, but with lumps of wood under bridges to stop that acoustic response. So in the end, I mean, it's how the whole instrument taps, I suppose. But yeah, in electric guitars, it's not so much of a thing. But yes, it's fun. Inky Guitars, how's it going, Inky? Question: I am designing a guitar which involves no glue whatsoever. Interested? Of course I'm interested. Send me an email, stream@crimsonguitars.com. I am doing my utmost to actually carve out some time to do admin on a regular basis. It makes me sad. Inky Guitars. Every time I see your name, I think of a sort of like Minecraft squid kind of thing. But anyway. Guitar building. Easy to learn. Near impossible to master. I absolutely agree. This is from Unencredable Guitars. I feel embarrassed calling myself Master Guitar Builder. I feel embarrassed calling myself Master Luthier, sorry. And in my head, the only way I get away with calling myself that is because I have a fair few guitar builders working for me, and I'm technically their master. Because, they work for me. Anyhow, I feel that if I get to a point where there is nothing left to learn for me in guitar building, I will probably stop doing it. I also am confident that that is never going to happen, so don't worry. It's at that stage of the live stream where I start slowing down. 1 hour, 22 minutes and 46 seconds in. 139 likes. 242 people watching. Click like, people, please. It makes a difference. Okay. Dougie Drever says, if doing a through neck, could you do a scarf joint for the neck body angle if you're going to use a Gibson style bridge? Yes. Yes. Why the hell has that never been... I don't think I've ever seen anybody do that. And I've had a problem where the neck is... You've just illustrated what I just said about learning new things. Yes, you can. I've never considered that. And in the last 10 or 15 years, I've always had enough wood to do the neck and just cut it out of a large lump. I've got it. I have access to that. Thank you very much. That's a damn fine idea. Yes, you can. You can have a scarf joint at the headstock. You can have a scarf joint at the neck break angle and then carve it through. It is non-standard, but utter genius. Go for it. Dougie Drever. My apologies. JM Page says, any opinions on a fret radius that doesn't match the neck? I heard Eric Johnson puts a 12-inch radius on his old Strats. Any pros and cons? There is no... okay, it's how it feels to the musician, but any time it's almost more difficult when leveling and crowning over the 20, 30, 40-year life of an old guitar. It's almost more difficult to match the radius that it's supposed to be than it is to slowly flatten things out. So it takes concentration to match it, and a lapse of concentration to make it flatter. And that's probably what happened with his guitars. It's, over time, the 7 1/4 or 9.5 inch radius turned into 12-inch radius. I'm wondering if that's even actually possible. I think I don't think that's even possible, to be honest. Oh, well, there's a gouge there. Radius gauges. Let me just have a look at this. So 12-inch. I think what he's probably done. Okay. So yeah, the difference in the middle of the 7 1/4 inch radius, the difference between the middle of that and the middle of the 12-inch radius is actually about 1 millimeter. So you have to have jumbo frets in order to, on the frets themselves, change the radius. I suspect the fretboard itself has been worked over time. Now, it is possible to take, say, a 12-inch radius and flatten it down to a 14 without even really thinking about it, while you're doing your leveling, crowning and polishing, etc. Charlie Lilly has sent a £5 super chat and said, been looking to do a course at Crimson, but I don't know the cost of accommodation in the area. I am... okay, drop us an email, office@crimsonguitars.com. You will end up talking to one of our people who will put you in touch with the wondrous Julie, who will be able to find you accommodation at a variety of prices. It depends on what you want, how long you're staying for, etc. From bedsit to luxury flat, she knows where they all are. I laughed a little bit because I I'm gonna sell a few watches, and I would love to buy a flat or to let out to students, and just because I think it would be the coolest thing possible to have a flat that actually has one of my guitars in, and an amp, and a library of guitar building books, and cool things that somebody who's one of my students could rent and live in while they stay there. I think that would just be so awesome, and it's something I've been looking into over the last weeks. So yeah, and Charlie, I am looking forward to having you at Crimson. It's it's going to be cool. That guitar dude guy sent 60, I think it's shekels. Hi Ben, as disappointed as I am from the voting process. You and me both. I'm not sure if you were here earlier when I said, but there was, according to the developers of the app who did the whole voting app thing, they said that there was maybe a 0.5% variance, and that basically, there were two separate issues. One was that the app was allowing you to vote again, allowing some people to vote once every 24 hours. Luckily, first of all, most people wouldn't do that anyway. They're not arseholes. But it was only over a 4 or 5 day period, that vote. So even if some 1 or 2 people decided to do it, they wouldn't make much of a difference. And there was one person who we saw actually call out and tell people to go and cheat, and well, he didn't make the top 10, shall we say. Anyway, as disappointed as I am from the voting process, I want to say thank you. I've built an amazing first guitar and met a lot of amazing people. My 2 cents is to give only the builder voting rights next, native or native. I do think that it was problematic. It was problematic, and it always will be. This time round, the problem is if only the builders are voting, then they're only going to vote for themselves. I'd vote for myself. I think maybe a top 5 would be interesting, but that removes all of the fun for the public. We'll see. Maybe what we mentioned earlier about spot prizes, maybe the spot prizes will be voted for by the builders, and that's a whole part of the competition. You guys need to, amongst yourselves, decide who did the best inlays, or who did the best headstock, or who came up with the most interesting carving, or the best finish, or came up with the best guitar with limited tools. For example, there's lots of things, and I think that's where the fun is going to be next year, 100%. David Farndale sent £5 and said, "I could have Googled this, but this is more fun." I agree. Thank you very much. What is the difference between a 250k and a 500k pot? Cheers. Hold on, I just need to Google this. Okay, so a potentiometer is technically called a variable resistor, and essentially, as you sweep the pot over, the signal from the guitar, the signal from the pickups, gets sent through this resistor, and that resists the signal. And when it's full on, it lets most of the signal through, and when it's full down, it lets none of it through. And there's a taper, linear or logarithmic, etc. Some work better for tone, some work better. I really need to cancel that damn alarm. Okay, bear in mind I'm not electronically minded and not particularly good at this, so yeah. Now the difference between 250k and 500k is the total resistance that pot has when it is full on. See, even I don't fully understand this. It does make a difference. It changes the amount of signal that you've got going through. I'm going to have to Google this. What the hell? I mean, the easy answer is the difference between the 250k and a 500k pot is 250k. But anyway. Yeah, it's as I said, essentially it affects the tone slightly. Using a 500k pot will give a brighter sound, and lower value pots, i.e. 250k, etc., will give a slightly warmer tone. It's about the resistance. That's what I said. There we go. You basically paid me £5 to Google it for you. I got right to the end there and then just started questioning myself. The interesting thing is that you can, first of all, most pots are made with a plus minus 10%. So you could have in the same batch a pot that is actually 550, and some of them are even plus or minus 20%. You can have a 550k pot and a 450k pot, and both of them are technically 500k. It depends on the quality of the pots. The better the pot is, the closer that variance becomes. Robert Tucker says, building a guitar is one thing, getting set up and playing amazing is what separates the masters from the wannabes. I think that is the thing, and I still feel like I will always be working on that setup. Patrick Nesbitt's come in with another question. If you were to put out an EX kit, would it be a classic EX type with the stupid switch position and rounded edges, or something more contemporary? More contemporary. Both. Lisa Green. Did I see Lisa Green? There we go. Hi Lisa, how are you? I haven't seen a question from you today. Dead Privacy says all electric guitars should come with chaos pads and lasers. Let's not talk about lasers after that football fiasco, shall we? Not that I follow football. I follow the news and I read things. Okay. Um, SC Guitar says, I have 300k in my GGBO builders. I have one volume, a P-rail, and a lipstick pickup. And your build is why you guys were talking about black holes the other week, and I completely just... Yeah. There we go. Lisa Green says, Lisa Green is waiting for a Jaguar. Dougie Drever says, why don't pickup companies get together and come up with a universal solderless system? Yeah. Yeah. Don Church, hey Ben, any tricks or advice for properly aligning a Bigsby? I have managed to avoid Bigsby's forever. I think I've used one once. I've built a guitar with a Bigsby on once, many years ago. So I am no help for you whatsoever. I apologize. I can only suggest potentially that you need to... It's exactly the same way as any other bridge. So the Bigsby goes over a roller Tune-o-matic. Once you've got your main bridge in place, put a couple of strings through the Bigsby around that nonsense and to the tuners, and then physically pull it and hold it in place. Doesn't even need to be strings. Use some fishing wire and use that to line up exactly where it needs to go. But it should be, yeah, it should be. 90s says the pot is a variable resistor between the pickup and ground. The lower the killer ohm value, the more highs are shunted to ground. The higher the killer ohm value, the lesser highs are shunted to ground. There we go. That is the man who knows what the hell they're talking about. That is a 90s who knows what they're talking about. Bodie Brass says, hi Ben, newish subscriber here. Thank you for subscribing. Like 60% of people who watch the channel aren't actually subscribed. It's hilarious. I've watched several of your builds. I just wanted to say, love the content, and for someone who's getting ready to start building, your content is great. Thank you very much. My life goal is to get as many guitars built as possible, whether I build them or somebody else does. There's more guitars out there. It's awesome. And thank you for watching. Okay. Tim Stevens says, I'm trying to cast my builder's choice vote, and I can't narrow it down any further than my top 6 scratch builds. Dang y'all for being too good. Ha! DCA Investment says, hi Ben, when you get a chance, can you do a tutorial on finishing basics? It's such a difficult thing. It depends entirely on everything that you're doing. But yeah, the preparation, to say something trite and obvious. Yeah, it's about getting that right, but then each different finish has its own issues. And as I said earlier in the live stream, I really feel like I need to work on what I'm doing as well, and I need to practice finishing. A spray booth is one thing. I've got a fantastic spray booth. I know how to use it, and rubbing down lacquer and all that jazz. Once you've got the spray booth set up, and once you've got the finish itself dialed in, and that was an issue. But doing stuff at home, different story entirely. But yes, I'm gonna work on that. In the meantime, Brad Angove. Yeah, check out Brad Angove. Ooh, Bulgarian Evolution says, would you rather be forced to buy and use a Plek machine, or have to let the chickens do the finished polishing on your builds? Chickens! I am all about the texture these days. Come on. And I already own the chickens. There's no need to spend $110,000, I think. I'm pretty sure somebody in the live stream once said that. Lisa Green says, I thought Gibson... Good question, by the way. I thought Gibson tried the no soldering with PCBs. I don't think they were popular, though. So that is the thing. To go back to that earlier question. It's very easy. That's a dog trying to get let in. And if you can hear him, I apologise. There are solderless systems that are just standard, and we can buy the parts left, right, and centre. Demancio used that system, and it just plug and play. I could go on what's that Chinese website and buy 1 million of them tomorrow for not very much, I'm sure, if I wanted to. So anybody can do it, but one reason why it's not done is it's more difficult. It's more time consuming to put everything together, because it's all essentially you as the manufacturer then have to hand solder the pieces to the pickup and to the pots and all that jazz. And that's, they're not gonna do that when everybody already does the soldering themselves. It comes down to money in the end, I think. So yeah, there we go. What guitarist or artist would you want to build a guitar for? That's from Patrick Nesbo. As many as humanly possible. If I have a regret, it is that my company has not done I wanted to be a guitar factory, getting as many guitars as humanly possible in people's hands that I came up with and built and designed and all that jazz, and that hasn't happened yet. Amazing other things have happened. The school is incredible. We're pretty much the biggest guitar building school in the world right now, by the amount of people that come through and study with us, at least, on a weekly basis, on a yearly basis, sorry, even, COVID notwithstanding. But the one regret is that I haven't had the success that I'd hoped for as a guitar company, as a guitar school, as a guitar building school. Fantastic, amazing. As a tool manufacturer, I never dreamed that would be what we are today. But I would love to be making thousands and thousands of guitars and have tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people playing them. And it's not even about the money or any of that. Ego? I don't know. So yeah, all of the artists. I would like to get one of my guitars in everybody's hands. Okay. Cars and Guitars says, thanks for the live. I don't have the opportunity to come often, but now I need to have a call with a colleague. Canada is still in working hours. Thanks again. It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much. Look, we are now coming, it's an hour and 43 minutes. You have got less than 7 minutes to hit me with your best questions, people. Super chats if you want me to absolutely see it. But if not, I'm going to call it a night at 1 hour and 50 minutes because, I need to. Felipe Zerene, I'm not sure, says, hi Ben, I'm building electric ukuleles. Do you think making a body as your GGBO 21 with an acoustic style top and back 2 to 3 millimeters would work? A little bit thicker than that, I would say probably 4 or 5. But yes, absolutely and emphatically, it would be amazing. And I would love to see. Please send me photos. Okie dokie. Max is taking the piss out of me. Give me questions while 10 super chats were waiting to be answered in the back end here. Stephen is asking if I answered. Yes, I did answer that one. So there we go. Give me questions. Lisa Green says, doggy names? Yeah. So the dog that you heard barking was Jasper. He is a Patterdale Jack Russell Cross. He is 15 years old. The other month, about 3 or 4 months ago, I was walking through Stallbridge where VintageToolShop.com is, and there was somebody, a lady and her son, walking their dog, and I stopped him. I said, I thought they had my dog, and it wasn't. It was his sister from his litter, from this, literal litter mate. And she looked the spitting image of my Jasper here. I was like, oh, here's a photo of my dog, here's your dog, they're brothers and sisters. It was like amazing. And then we have two new puppies. They're about 10 weeks old. One of the reasons why I'm so tired looking today is they woke me up at midnight last night to poop and all that sort of stuff. And they are called Pippin and Baby. And here we go. They are... I'm not really supposed to be talking about them. My wife is paranoid that somebody's going to try and steal them. They're Cavapoos, Cavalier King Charles cross poodles, and they are tiny and gorgeous, and I love them. So there we go. Okay, this is a comment from David Farndale. Says, Ben, I got my tool order last week, and the quality is spot on. The finishing oil is beautiful. Keep doing it, Ben. I will never stop. And thank you very much for. Thank you very much. It's a. Yeah, we're always striving to be better and better and better, and yeah, a couple of months ago we started changing the thickness of the material we use for all of the straight edges and fret rockers and things, adding an extra millimeter just to make them just a tiny little bit better. Nobody's, until I tell them, actually going to know. They're just going to know it's good quality. I've got an itchy back. That was a perfect back scratcher. Okay, mhoke63 sent a $5 super chat with no question. Coolwood Italy says, my question is in your WhatsApp queue. Come on then. Is it? No, it's not. Hand Tool Build says, is the stream is so late, we'll get another tool auction to make up for it. I know you... Actually, I do have a lot of tools. Creever on that note says, Ben, have you annoyed a witch of some sort? I think you've been cursed. Yeah, I think I have. I'm looking for the email from... Okay, hold on. Coolwood, Italy, Friday. Oh, here we go. Hi, Ben. My current build is going to be a two-piece body, single-piece top and single-piece back rather than back to side because I'm hollowing out the inside. This means the join will be dead center all around the edge of the guitar. I'd like to do something interesting around the edge to cover. Make the pretty join. Okay, this. Not sure if you can see, but essentially filing the edge of two pieces of metal in fine knife making and stuff gets that incredible look. I would love to do that on a guitar. It doesn't have to match up like that. It could be alternating or something like that, but that would be really cool. Joe Smart John Jr. sent a $5 super chat and said, would you rather have raw oysters or cooked buffalo balls? I would have to go with the balls, Joe. I watched that Seaspiracy thing on Netflix, and I've always had a bit of an issue with eating fish and seafood anyway, but I am on principle never going to eat fish or fish byproduct ever again. And if you haven't checked out that thing, you really should. Oh, that's interesting. Thank you, Creeper Eye. Okay. mhoke63, this is the question. What is the fewest amount of tools you could get to make a guitar out of a couple of slabs of wood? What tools would those be? That is such a difficult question. Router, chisel, hand plane, rasp, essential fret leveling and dressing toolkit. You pretty much need every single one of those things. That's why it's called essential. And bandsaw, some way of cutting the outline out. frets. Or I've done this before. There's a video on the channel sometime in the last year, 15 essential tools for guitar building or something like that. It is on the channel. You have to check that out. This is too big. Vax Headroom. If you could design a chisel specific to guitar building, which you can't find today, what would it look like and be made from? I know a guy. Something that I find very useful is that essentially it's a cranked bevel edge flat chisel. That comes very, very useful. Another option is to have, and you just can't find them. You just can't. In the 40,000 plus tools I've had through vintagetoolshop.com, I've had 2 of those and 1 was handmade. Another option is when you're sharpening, instead of leaving the section flat, you bevel up that section. So you change the point 2 or 3 millimeters, which means that when you're chiseling, it's actually at that angle, and your hand isn't bumping on the guitar or causing issues. Those 2 things would be useful. Okie dokie. Mike Hubert says, ever thought of building a sheet metal guitar, English wheel, planishing hammer and all that jazz? I have. I built somebody asked me if I could make a guitar with a copper top, and I said yeah, of course. I went and I got some copper and a hammer and I beat the hell out of it, and my neighbour who I got the copper from said, so how did you deal with the heat treating? I've forgotten the word. And I said, what do you mean? And of course it had work hardened and cracked in a couple of places, and yeah, I hit it with an inlay. So that sort of thing would be fun, and I'm embarrassed to say, I don't know how to brazing and welding and all that jazz. It's not something that I've ever done, and I need to be taught how to do it. And it's sort of, worries me. Patrick Nesbo says, will there be, or do you wish for Crimson to have factory-produced guitars, production models that are not hand-built, like Rob Chapman, Ola England, etc.? Yes. Yeah. So, okay, let me rephrase that. Yes. There is no guitar on the planet that is not hand-built. There are CNCs, yes, and I have them, and in not next week's What's on the Bench, but the following week's What's on the Bench, you are going to see my new CNC machine, and we're going to see it together for the first time on camera. I've seen a photograph or 2, and it's going to be freaking amazing. But yeah, utilizing CNC machines and laser cutters and modern technology, I would love to mass produce UK made guitars to my design and specifications. I would love to. What I would not do is have my guitars made for me in China, like Chapman, for example. I don't think that is, or anywhere. You know, if I'm going to have a guitar factory, I'm going to have a guitar factory. And it's not going to be about price, it's going to be about quality. Okay, of course, I've gone over where I said I would. Click like if you haven't. And yeah. Robert R says, I have some of your stains and oils keeping the bottles closed. How long will they stay good? I still need to build my shop before I start using them. Honestly, I have a water-based stain here that I have had for probably 4 years, the purple one, and it smells a bit. Other than that, it works absolutely perfectly fine. But since I realised that, we've started putting something else in to help preserve it a bit more. They might dry out a little bit, in which case add a little bit of water. The oils, we've never noticed a problem unless it gets temperature extremes. It needs to be kept in a consistent sort of temperature, to be honest. Okay. Oh, Tutankhamun is in. I am very much looking forward to building your guitar. Okay. Spiegelman Customs says he would like to schedule a business call with me. Who would I reach out to? Okay. Seriously, Stephen, can you please remind me that I need to sort that out, and we'll set something up. I would, yeah. I read something earlier today. I'm always reading self-help stuff and business stuff and management stuff, and I'd always be learning. And I'm paraphrasing, I'm probably going to get it wrong, but the thing was, in order to be successful, you should always have a full schedule, but always be able to make time for interesting things as they come along. And yeah, we'll see. Okay. Okie dokie. Questions. Ben Timon says, the maple made my high-speed steel lose its temper. Any advice to prevent this from happening? They're quality Austrian-made fish bits. I had a beautiful fish center point cutter, 10mm, that I loved and adored. And one day I was in a rush to put a hole in my workbench, and I drilled into a nail, mullered it. It sounds to me like you're going too fast, and like way too fast, and sticking around in maple for too long. If you're using a pillar drill, lower the speed down. It does not want to be going through with a scream. It wants to be going and just going gentle, or you're putting far too much pressure as you go. Be gentle, be slow, pretend that you're stroking a puppy. No, a cat. Because if you don't stroke a cat properly, they'll bite. Sometimes they bite anyway. I don't know. There we go. I am definitely losing. My mind. Spiegelman Customs, I am going to send you an email. I'll try and actually do it this evening. Robert Tucker says, at Ben, have you ever thought of doing one-on-one personal builders class? Maybe a 2-week course. You could auction it to raise money for GGBO. I have. I'm probably not going to do one-on-one classes, but I will seriously consider doing for example, a 2-week course at Crimson HQ with a dozen students, where I will be the luthier in charge at that time. I think that essentially that would mean for 2 weeks I'm not making any videos. It would mean that for 2 weeks thousands of people are not getting what they want, and I think that wouldn't be fair. But if I could maybe even film it, but definitely, yeah, it's something that I've absolutely considered. Yeah, okay. Fiakmar says, my Crimson Straight Edge will have a wrapped tape handguard for dispatching zombies once the simulation loads them up. The notched straight edges, very, very early on, I actually had a customs in some country get in touch with us to try and figure out what it was, because they thought we were sending weapons through. But yeah, it would work very well for taking those heads off, I tell you. Okay. I think we're going to call it a day. I really do. Creverai says, Ben, you as experienced tool shop owner, how can I prevent my precious tools from rusting in my wet basement? My Veritas number 62 got a little spot of rust and I want to keep that away. Guitar finishing oil is one thing. When I'm restoring tools, I cover them in guitar finishing oil or linseed oil. If you have a hot workshop, then 3-in-1 oil, something like that, will only be temporary. The heat will burn that off, and then if there's any moisture in the air at any point, you won't have the protections. So, yeah, I the surfaces that aren't actually in touch with the wood, I coat in an oil finish, and it protects them and also looks quite nice over time. Camellia oil is another thing that you can buy from tool dealers, and essentially it comes, Japanese tool dealers in particular, it comes in a little pot with a cotton applicator, and essentially you rub that on your tools, and if you do that once a week, that's another option, and you just do that the whole thing. It's one of those things. But yeah, if there's anything else, let me know. Lisa Green says, a celebrity build? That would be fun. Jonathan Scott asks, will you be attending any shows this year? Maker Central was planned. That has now been cancelled. Guitar shows, no, I don't think so. Live music events, probably not. Although that is everything's starting to open up again. But yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things. Or as 90s says, you can put it in a box with desiccants for Creverai. David Farndale says, Ben, will you be getting base notch straight edges in? We had an issue with the company that cuts them out for us. They should be in very, very, very soon. Ivan Wizard says, Workshop Heaven have camellia oil. That's great stuff. Workshop Heaven is a great company as well. I've got that box of, I think, chisels that I need to open, and I'm really looking forward to it. Lisa Green. So God was talking to Michael and said, I've managed to install a globe turning time of 24 hours. Michael asks, what are you going to do now? God replies, I think I'll call it a day. Nice one. Okay, I am saying good night. Thank you very, very much. You guys are incredible. There's one more question. Yes, the real wonky dog. We have tours for people. If you want to come and visit Crimson, let us know, and we'll show you about the place. We don't charge at the moment, at least, unless it gets to a point where we're actually having to pay somebody just to do that, in which case we'd have to. But yeah, it's one of those things. Seriously, thank you for everything. I really appreciate everything that you guys do. This has been a fantastic start to my weekend. I am feeling invigorated and alive. So thank you. I will be back on Sunday for another live stream. Have a good one. And yeah, nighty.